Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam. Ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I welcome all of you with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
May peace, mercy and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on all of you. I welcome you to the special program of Better Half or Bitter Half. And in this program, you're most welcome to ask any questions related to marriage, how to conduct a nikah, regarding how marriage life should be led. You can ask any questions that you'd like to know before you say I do, before you say Kabul hai, before you say I accept it, or any questions related to anything that related to your life after you say I do, after you say Kabul hai, after you say I accept it. You're most welcome to ask any questions regarding marriage. In short, you're most welcome to ask any questions so that after you say I do, you should have a successful wedlock and not a padlock. So the program will start Better Half or Bitter Half, wedlock or padlock.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My question is, if a husband is economically stronger than his wife, and if the wife is asked to do the household chores and take care of the children, if the husband permits her to employ a maid and share her responsibility, will she be able to do a job and make herself economically strong? Please comment.
As far as the question is concerned that if the husband is economically strong and can employ a maid, but the wife wants to be free from the household work so that she can do a job and be economically stronger or be independent. So is it permissible? Permissible if the husband agrees and doesn't have a problem, and as long as the job which the sister is doing is within the purview of the Islamic Sharia, it's permissible. But if she wants to do the job so that she is economically independent, then that view is not correct Islamically. Because in Islam, it is the man who's the bread earner. The woman need not think about a living. She is economically secured. It's the duty of the man to bear the financial burden. Before a woman is married, it's the duty of the father and the brother, and after she is married, it is the duty of the husband and the son to look after lodging, boarding, clothing, and all financial aspects. So if she wants to do the job just because she wants to be economically independent, even though the husband is financially strong, I feel that is not a good reason. You know, this is more of the Western culture, that I want to be independent so that I'm not a burden to anyone, so that I can do something, and then she may start boasting, then she may start earning more than the husband, then she may start bossing over the husband. All these things are not in line with the Islamic culture, Islamic ethos. Yes, if both the ends don't meet, and if she feels that I can employ a servant and pay her a couple of thousand rupees, and she does a job and she can earn maybe 5 times, 10 times more, and to help in support of the family, and if the job is within the purview of the Islamic Sharia, maintains her to do hijab, then there is no problem. But just to be economically secured and financially better so that she is independent, even though the husband earns enough money, I feel the view is not correct and it should be avoided. But permissible, if the husband gives permission, I wouldn't say it's haram, but I would say that the reason for doing a job is not a very good reason. But if she says that I want to do da'wah, and my husband is financially strong, I want to spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, spreading the deen so that I get sawab and my family gets sawab, then that reason is good. If the husband is economically strong, instead of, she can easily employ a maid servant, pay 3,000-4,000 rupees, so that the wife is free, she can spend her time in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she can overlook the household, that's a very good reason. But only to earn more money so that she is financially independent is not a very good reason. I hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Does Islam recognize a marital rape?
This is the question, that does Islam recognize marital rape? Now this word is coined by the Western media. It is marital rape, like you're asking, is there an Islamic dance party or Islamic cocktail party? It is both are contradicting. Marriage and rape is contradicting. It's more in the Western world. It's like asking that I've seen a tall, short man and a fat, thin man, both opposite. Similarly, like having an Islamic musical dance party. Music and dance, haram in Islam, and musical dance party. So similarly, marital rape. See, marriage is a sacred covenant, nikah is a sacred covenant, and the moment both man and the woman, when they join the relationship, but natural, it is permissible for both of them to have a relationship. Fine, unnecessary force should not be used, but neither should any of them deny the other spouse if the spouse wishes to. So marital rape is a new word coined by the Western media, which it doesn't carry weight in Islam. In Islam, it is the duty, as I mentioned earlier, that Allah says in the Quran in Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse 187, that hunna libasul lakum antum libasul lahunna. This is the verse I started my talk with, started the program with, that they, your wives, are your garments and you are their garments. So the role of the garments is to protect each other, to conceal each other, to beautify one another. So if you say that, they are your garments, so it's the duty that they help each other. If they don't help, then they aren't serving the purpose of garments. I have a garment but I won't wear it. Like, will anyone, if you own a garment, you have to wear it. If you don't wear the garment, then the purpose of garment is defeated. So similarly, a marriage is a covenant where but natural, as Allah says in Surah Rum chapter 30 verse 21, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put love and mercy between the hearts of the man and woman. So here I feel that rape means, by definition, having forceful sexual relationship with the opposite sex. When a man forces to have, without the will and the consent, forces to have sexual relationship with a woman, but it's taken for granted this is outside the marital bond. But now, since marriage is not used, technically rape means forcefully having sexual relationship with a girl without a permission, using force is a technical word. But in marriage, if the husband wants, it is the duty of the wife that she should agree, even though she may not have that mood. And as the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that if a wife refuses to have a relationship when the husband wants, the angels will curse her. So based on this, there is no question of marital rape taking place. And at the same time, the husband should be considerate that if the wife is not feeling well or if a mood is not there, he should say, okay, we'll have it next time. So it's a relationship of hands and gloves. So if the wife is not in mood, it's the duty of the husband to be considerate and see to it that he has it some other time. So it is a relationship which is understanding. But if the wife maybe more than 50% time refuses, it's difficult for the husband to always say no on relay. So it's understanding between the husband and wife. But in Islam, there is no concept of marital rape at all. It's in the Western country, it's there, not in Islam at all. Hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Islam allows a woman to give khula, but in India it's easier said than done. So what does a woman do if she wants khula?
As I mentioned in my earlier answer, that one of the types of divorces, that if the wife wants, she can request the husband to give khula. But if the husband does not give khula, she can go to a qazi, and if the husband does injustice to her and does not give her her rights, she has a right to go to the qazi and do nikah fasq. Nikah fasq means nullification of a marriage. Now this khula or nikah fasq is much easier done in an Islamic state where you have an Islamic qazi, and in khula the woman requests the husband, the wife requests the husband to give divorce. It's called as khula. But if the husband does not agree, after the wife requests the husband to give khula and the husband does not agree to give divorce, she can go to the next stage, that is nikah fasq, that is nullification of the marriage. She can go to an Islamic qazi and prove her point that the husband is ill-treating her or not giving her her rights, not fulfilling his duties. In India, because we don't have an Islamic state, but we do have some Muslim courts, and the country does recognize a Muslim personal board. So in this case, they can approach that and the husband can be called. But if the husband resists, then you have to go to the normal civil court. You can go to Indian court, and then you have to hire a good lawyer. Because even though the Muslim judiciary or the Muslim small courts, they don't have a complete legal status. But when you go to a civil court, because the Indian government recognizes the Muslim personal law, in the Indian court of law, even if they are not Muslims. But if a normal Indian goes to the Indian court and wants divorce, the difference is that in a normal civil court, you have to prove that the husband is doing wrong things, etc. You have to wash your dirty linen in public. In Islamic court, you don't have to wash your dirty linen. It's done with a mutual consent. You go to the Qazi convinces. In the normal civil court, you have to wash your dirty linen in public. So in India, maybe you'll have to do that if you want a divorce. But it's possible even in India. But you have to hire a good lawyer who knows the law and even knows the law of the Muslim personal board. Hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Are the parents allowed to forcefully marry their daughter to whom she does not like?
This is the question that, does Islam permit the parents to force the daughter to marry someone who they want her to marry, but the daughter does not want? In Islam, forcing anyone to marry is not permissible. The permission or the agreement of both would-be husband and wife is very important. Both husband and wife, would-be husband and wife, should agree to get married. Then only can the nikah solemnize. Then only can the marriage solemnize. But naturally, the parents can guide the children, guide the daughter, give advice, give suggestions. It's good. And normally the parents give good suggestions. But if the girl feels that the parent are not suggesting a right life partner, and she wants a more Islamic life partner, or if the parents say marry Islamic life partner, and the girl says no, that I don't want to marry Islamic, I want to marry a rich and handsome man rather than an Islamic man. So then I feel that the parents are right, and in this case the parents will get sawab, that they are forcing the daughter to be on the straight path. But if the girl feels that the parents want a handsome man and a rich man, but she wants a pious man, a pious husband, so in this case she is right. So it depends upon who is more on the Quran and Sunnah. But generally, a father or a mother cannot force the daughter to marry someone who she does not like. Because of the hadith mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, in the book of Nikah, chapter number 69, hadith number 649, that once a lady by the name of Khansa bin Khadim al-Ansariya approached the Prophet and said, my father has forced me to marry a man who I don't like. And the Prophet, he nullified the marriage. So based on this, it's clear that the permission and the agreement of both would-be husband and wife is equally important. Hope that answers the question. If any other sisters have any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it necessary to have the nikah in the mosque?
The sister has a question. Is it necessary to have the nikah in the mosque, or is it a sunnah to have the nikah in the mosque? There is a hadith which is mentioned in hadith of Sunnah Tirmidhi, volume number 2, in the book of Nikah, hadith number 1089, which says that the Prophet said that to have nikah in the mosque, but the hadith is zaif hadith. It's a weak hadith. There is no sahih hadith that I know of in which the Prophet recommended that the nikah should take place in a mosque. But if someone wants the nikah to be conducted in a mosque, it is not haram, it's not makruh, it is mubah. If someone conducts in a mosque, it's acceptable. But it is not fard in Islam, neither it is a sunnah. But if someone wants to conduct it, it's good. But the Prophet said that make nikah easy, or the best of marriage is that in which the least expenditure is made. So in this context, if someone has in the mosque, it's perfectly acceptable. It's no problem at all. But it is not fard, neither it is proven from the Quran and Hadith. But a person, if he wants, he can get married in the mosque. Hope that's the question. Any other sister have any questions?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it not injustice to give the right to divorce only to men and not to women?
So that's the question, that isn't it injustice when the right of divorce is only given to the man and not to the woman? If you realize the way Islamic marriage takes place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah says in the Quran, it's mentioned in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is never unjust in the least degree. And the Quran says in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 228, that the women have rights as against them, on terms equitable, but the men have a degree of advantage. So overall, the Quran says the men and women are equal, but some places they have a degree of advantage. And on the other hand, there are hadiths which the Prophet said that if respect the mother more, so there the women have a degree of advantage. But this aspect, why do the men have a degree of advantage? The reason is that when a marriage takes place, one of the criteria besides the agreement of both the would-be husband and wife, there is a concept of meher. That it's compulsory, as the Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 4, that gift to the economic status. That means meher is compulsory for a marriage to solemnize. So when a meher is given, the would-be wife can demand what she wants. And the Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 20, you can even give a mountain of gold. So imagine when a marriage takes place, it is the man who is in loss economically. He gives meher. Now once he gives the meher, if suppose the right is given to the woman to divorce, and she divorces, who would be the loser? Who would be the man? And in case if a divorce takes place, the girl can marry again. When she marries, she gets a new meher. Here, if the man marries, he has to give a new meher. So therefore economically the woman is secured. So based on this, generally by default, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the right to the man to divorce. And furthermore the Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4, verse number 34, Ar-rijalu qawwamun ala nisa, that the men are the supporters of the women. For Allah has given one strength more than the other. So based on this, because man is a qawwam, he is the leader in the family, but naturally by default, the right to divorce goes to the man. Because he is the one who looks after the family, etc. But that does not mean a woman cannot demand the rights. During Nikah, if she wishes, she can put a condition that I too want a right to divorce. Because by default it goes to the man, but if the husband wants to give that right even to the would-be wife, he can give. So in the Nikah, if the woman wants, if the would-be wife wants to put a condition, and if the husband agrees, she can put a condition, so both will have the right. But otherwise, by default, without any rules and regulation, the right goes to the man. Otherwise, I'll have to give a talk on men's rights in Islam. Hope that answers the question, sister. Any other sister has any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it encouraged to marry within the same community like Konknis marry only Konknis?
Sister has a question that, is it encouraged for a girl or a boy to marry within the same community, like Kokni marrying Kokni, or Mehman marrying Mehman? We only got stuck to Kokni because then I'm a Kokni. So it can go Sheikh marrying a Sheikh or a Sayyid marrying a Sayyid. So the beloved Prophet Muhammad said, it's preferable to marry the same type of people, same category, whether it may be in category in terms of ethnicity, whether it may be in terms of economic status, whether it be in terms of community, because the compatibility is there. Because the Kokni have a different style of living, the Mehman have a different style of living, the Keralite may have a different style of living, the person, UK American person, different style of living, the European may have. So it's easy to gel. So it is preferable, but not a fard. Similarly, imagine an African marrying a European. It can go well, not it's not possible. It's possible, but the chances of compatibility is less. Similarly, a Chinese coming and marrying someone from Kerala, not that it's not possible, it's possible, but if you want to break this barrier for a cause, for example, I am finding a more virtuous non-Kokni, then I prefer marrying a non-Kokni than marrying a Kokni. So in my case, I could not leave aside Kokni, I could not get a girl from Bombay who I wanted to virtuous, so I had to go to Pune. I had to travel 160 miles. So I not only left the community, I left the city also. So your reason to marry was virtue. So if virtue is the criteria, if you break these barriers of economic status, of nobility, of community, of ethnicity, there's no problem. Otherwise, generally, if exactly same virtues, who is from your community, not from your community, preferable, same virtues from your community. Same virtues who's rich and who's poor, and if you are rich, then same virtues who's rich is preferable. But if you find that one person more virtuous and out of the community is preferable, that one person is more important than matching your community or matching your ethnicity or matching your economic status, but if the virtue is not the criteria, otherwise marrying in the same level is preferable, so that life becomes easier. So when you have a choice to choose the easy part, it's preferable to choose the easy part than the difficult. But That does not mean, because normally in Indian culture it's very common. Kokni should marry a Kokni, 99%. Memon should marry Memon. A Kerala Malayali should marry a Malayali. And that's the reason, they look for this criteria more important than virtue. Yes, I want virtue, but should be a Kokni. I want a virtuous girl, but should be a Memon. So this is just for saying they're more looking for their community rather than virtue. So virtue should be given the most important. Hope that answers the questions. Are there any other questions?
Is it cultural or is it promoted in Islam to give preference to younger women for marriage, or to give preference to virgin over non-virgins, or to give preference over good-looking to average-looking women?
Sister has the question that is it cultural in Islam, is it preferable in Islam to marry younger women as compared to elder women, to marry more beautiful women as compared to average-looking women, or more wealthier than poor? Is it preferable? It is mubah. Because if you go to the history of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the first woman that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam married, Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she was 15 years elder to the Prophet. The Prophet was 25 years old, Hazrat Khadija was 40 years old. And later on, he had only one wife, till the age of 50, 52, until Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she expired. And only after she expired did the Prophet marry. And after that when he married the girls that were younger, 36 years old, 32 years old, etc. But preference over young in age, here you have an example, the first marriage is 15 years older, the next marriage is younger. We have example that the Prophet, the first wife he did, Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she was a widower, so she wasn't a virgin. Amongst all the wives, only one wife was virgin. Otherwise, all the others, they were not virgins. They were either widow or they were divorcees. But that does not mean it is sunnah to marry a non-virgin. Then there will be a problem. But in the life of the Prophet gave various examples. Rich, Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she was very rich. The other ladies that the Prophet married, some were poor. So Prophet had an example of rich woman, he married poor woman, elderly woman, younger woman, virgin, non-virgin, more were divorcees, and they were widows. So here you find that cross-section, according to me, it's mubah. But it's a personal choice. As the Prophet said, as I mentioned earlier, according to the hadith of Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, in the book of Nikah, hadith number 5090, that the beloved Prophet ﷺ said, that when a person marries, he looks for 4 things: beauty, wealth, nobility, and virtue. And amongst them, virtue is the best. So if someone looks for beauty, it's not haram. Someone wants a younger wife, it's not haram. Someone wants a wealthier wife, it's not haram. Someone wants a noble wife, it's not haram. But amongst them, virtue is the best. So more important is the virtue. If you find a virtuous wife and she is less beautiful, it's preferable to marry a less beautiful wife than who's less virtuous. So virtuous wife who's less beautiful is preferable than more beautiful and less virtuous. So all these things, virtue carries more weight. But Islamic, there's nothing like which is preferable in the other criteria. As far as virtuous is concerned, it is preferable for sure. Hope that answers the questions. Are there any sisters that have any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What is the duty of the daughter to her parents after marriage? Should she obey them or her husband?
This is the question, that what is the duty of a daughter to her parents after she married? Should she obey the husband or the parents? I feel she should obey both. The best is obey both. But if there is a conflict, who is more important? But naturally before marriage, obeying the parents is most important. After marriage also it's important, but once she gets married, she goes to a different family. So if there is a conflict between both, we have to see that who is more on the Quran and Sunnah. Is it the husband or is it her parents? So based on that she makes the decision. But if both are neutral, both are not against the Quran and Sunnah, then you try and convince either of them that to change their views so that you can follow both the parents and satisfy your husband. But if there is really a conflict and both are not against Quran and Sunnah, and yet, so but naturally the tilt goes more towards the husband after marriage. Little bit more, because you have a family to look after, but that does not mean you neglect your parents, you disobey your parents. Only if the conflict is such that both are on the Quran and Sunnah, and then you have to choose between one of them. So it's preferable you satisfy both. As a last resort, if you have to take a balance, but now the balance tilts more towards the husband, because he becomes your immediate family, not that your parents are not. But at the same time, if you can convince your husband and yet obey your parents, that is the best. Hope that answers the question. Any sisters have any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Why is the Ida period after the death of a husband is longer than the Ida period after the divorce?
Sister has a question that why is the Idda period after the death of a husband longer as compared to the Idda period after the divorce? In both the Idda, as the Quran says in Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 228, that when you divorce your wife, there is an Idda period of 3 menstrual cycle or 3 monthly periods. But when a person dies, the Quran says that after your husband expires, the Idda period is for 4 months 10 days. So the Idda period after a husband expires is 1 month 10 days longer. For divorce it's 3 months, for after death it's 4 months 10 days. Why? The reason the Idda period is there, there are various reasons. One of the major reasons after divorce that the Idda period is there, to come to know whether the wife is carrying the child of the husband. So if during the Idda period, there are various reasons. One reason is it's more for preliminary test, as I said. That can the husband or wife stay away from each other. So it's a temporary period. In 2 weeks you come to know, I thought we were angry with my wife because she doesn't iron my clothes, and I felt that let's stay away, and now I realize in 2 weeks time I'm in a more difficult situation, let's patch up, let's reconciliate. Or the wife may think I'm getting angry, that my husband gives me less time, you only give me 5 hours a day, and now in 2 weeks I realize that even if you give me 2 hours, no problem. Something is better than nothing. So they can patch up. So various reasons are there. But one of the other reasons is that to come to know whether the wife is carrying the child of the husband. So if she's carrying, it extends, Idda period extends till the time of delivery. And furthermore, no one should allege that if they part, and in 3 months' time, you can easily come to know without doing any medical test that is she carrying a child or not. In the olden days, there was no examination like what we have. Ultrasonography, amniocentesis, various pregnancy tests. Amniocentesis for sex determination. We don't have the pregnancy test like we have today. But pregnancy is not the only reason. But at that time, 3 months is sufficient to come to know whether the woman is carrying the child of the husband or not. Pregnancy is not the only criteria, it's one of the important criteria. Besides that, as I said, that can you stay away, etc., it's a preliminary period. But in case of the death of a husband, when divorce takes place, everything is planned. Planned means divorce doesn't take place suddenly. First, there's mutual consultation between husband and wife, if you go according to the correct sunnah. If you go to the wrong bidah style, talaq, then it may take place in a second. You get angry and you start, which is not Islamic at all. It's talaq-e-bidat, as I discussed last time. If you go to the Islamic procedure of talaq, first there's mutual consultation between husband and wife. Then if it cannot be solved, then you appoint an arbiter. Then you wait. Then normally divorce takes place, it takes weeks and months, sometimes even year. So it is planned and you know something is going on. And then there is the period for 3 months. Compared to in a case of husband dying, most of the time it's sudden death. Maybe an accident, maybe he has a disease. Some rare cases he is terminally ill and you know he's dying slowly, but the chance is less. So most of the time in death you don't expect the husband to die. So here the wife is in a state of mental shock. So besides coming to know whether she's carrying a child in which 3 months is sufficient, so no one lays an allegation on her that she has a little sex billah with some man, and after the husband has died, she's carrying a child of someone else. So in that period, a period to know whether she's carrying the child, one of the reasons. But why is it 1 month 10 days more? Because when the woman undergoes a sudden loss or shock that she does not have a husband, this time is given for her to settle down. That's the reason during the iddah she cannot make any contract to marry someone else. And if she makes it, it's not valid. After the iddah is over, because maybe she's in a state of shock and someone says I want to marry, she says she is not secured, she is very scared, and she may agree to marry someone who is not good also. So the iddah period is extended. The 4 months 10 days is sufficient to let the mental shock come down, for the woman to come in normal state, so that she can take the decision to remarry. So it's a longer iddah. longer waiting period, and she can take a much wiser decision whether she has to marry again, who she chooses, etc. That's the reason for the idda after death of husband is longer as compared to divorce. Hope that answers the question, sister. Any other gents have any questions? Any brothers? Oh, mashallah, Arshi.